Good morning.
Good morning, Deborah Leanne.
And how are you today, Suzanne Joy, as we talk about this amazing gene key of dominance?
Yes. So today, oh my gosh, Deborah, this is amazing. Today we're talking about Gene Key 45, which is we're talking about the Gene Keys written by Richard Rudd. And yes, you bring in dominance. That's the shadow. And there's three different states of consciousness. So we've got the shadow, which is very human, and that's dominance. The gift that's born out of that dominance is synergy. I like that word. And then the Siddhic state is communion. And he calls it the cosmic communion. So I appreciate that because it feels very yummy to me that we would, as we bring this energy down into earth, that would be the reflection of that.
Yeah, as the cosmic guardian for the School of Light, that is no wonder it feels yummy to you.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm hanging out in the House of Dominoes. This is how he introduces the shadow part of this chapter. And I didn't ever put that together before. I mean, you're used to seeing, remember when those things went viral for a while, the little domino things that people would set up, millions of them in a room. Fascinating to watch. And how one little thing, and how it starts an evolutionary path of knocking them all down. So basically, what I loved about this is, again, operating from fear, which is all the shadows, how he even said our brain is wired to be this way, to think in terms of hierarchy, to think in terms of power over, like this has power over this, or this is, you know, who I defer to over that. And where I want to play with is how have I taken that and internalized that within,
Mm,
like one of the things is I happen to be with, and I have chosen to be with for the last 40 years of my life, three or four different engineers, electrical engineers, for the most part. So fascinating that they think of science as being a dominant science versus my soft science, neuroscience. That's just not, like we don't really know enough
that's not
about.
real science.
Yeah. And I'm like, and this whole thing about, where you were when you were born and this astrological science. And I'm like, yeah, but never again will the planets be in that same space at that same time. I mean, that all of that energy is in that moment is powerful for us to be aware of what we were born into. Anyway, this dominance thing, I have let it run me for a long time. And part of it is about time. Like time has dominance over my pleasure. Money has to do with how I define if my life is okay. And I'm noticing how it's really hard to get to that spaciousness of doing nothing, because then I'm like, I'm not valuable. What am I doing? So I want to play with that just to acknowledge the shadows that are within. I mean, yeah, we can see examples out there,
Right.
but we can't get to that inner synergy, which is yummy, which is what I think we do when we go do yoga or we meditate, drop in and center. And when everything is all in alignment, it feels so yummy. And I don't even like the word alignment anymore, but when everything's spinning at the same time, let's even say it that way. Because alignment even sounds like you're in something's higher than something else.
Right. Well, mm, I understand that. Right. As well, it's synergy. It's everything working together in harmony.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, and the energy is able to flow between all of the centers. I think I'm going to reframe the way I talk about alignment now that I'm thinking about that, because to me it looks like I'm imagining, those symbol or those images we saw about our energy centers, and I have them all up in a nice row through the center of our bodies. I'm like, No, they're spinning and they're, the auric field is not just in a pretty little rainbow stripe, even though I do like that. Happy Pride Month. So, so, so anyway, I just, let, do you want to speak much more about dominance, or do we want to play in synergy land, or what do you think?
Well, I just think that that animal part of us, you know, it comes from an ancestral animal aspect of ourselves where we felt we had that fear and we had a fear of lack. And when we talk about the repressive nature of that, it's being timid,
Mhm.
right? Not like kind of shaking in your boots, you bowing to other people for that think they have the authority,
And they have the voice.
they
Yeah.
have the voice. And
Timid to
so,
me almost feels like they shut down here. Yeah.
right, they shut down here, don't want to rock the boat, just kowtow. Is that what you say? Like
Yeah.
you,
Hmm.
yeah, you give your power to them and it's very quiet. Whereas the reactive nature is very pompous. They're the ones that are wanting to control all of the energy or the people just to feel like they're in control of their life,
Because
right?
they are also operating from insecurity.
Yeah,
So
well, or it's
that's interesting
yeah,
that, yeah,
it's rooted in anger. Yeah, there's not a trust there. There's rooted in anger or um mm,
fear, fear of
yeah.
not having enough power. And so they take the power versus the others give up their power.
Well, just think about our wars. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
like you
Oh,
don't have enough, right? So you got to
and
get more.
yeah, and it gets all the way down. It really distills to, he says, food, because it is such a human thing. So we think of food, and then we think of, well, we have to have money to make food, to have food, and then we have, I mean, it's like this.
Got to have more land to make food. Got to
Yes,
yeah,
and then I have to have more money to create more to get, anyway. So it's
yeah,
this. Um, that's where I see the domino effect. Actually, now that I see that,
yeah,
and the fear of not having enough, that lack
yeah.
that he spoke about in the 64 ways, the audio transmissions, that just struck me through the heart, because it is so much. It is such a human uh, feel. It's in the field of that scarcity. Not enough time, not enough love, not enough food, not enough money.
Yeah.
So repressive is timid, and the extra, what do you call it? The reactive is
It's
more
pompous.
pompous. Okay, so I can imagine people that would occupy those archetypes in my
Yes.
mind. And how do you go? I mean, this is, sometimes I think of it as being such a big leap, and sometimes it seems like a natural slide into the gift. But to go from that lack thing, how do you get into synergy?
I believe it takes each individual, each one of us, to break that pattern and stand alone and see a new system of operation.
Can't a few of us, though, because we actually need to have some people standing in that space
Right, right.
to be the
But
bridge builders, to say this is the way.
I believe that it all happens within the individual first, and then you find the people that use synergy,
Oh yeah, that's what he said, the fractal families. Okay, okay. So
So you
it's an individual kind of feeling of stepping into the synergy, and where you're like, oh, this is way better than operating from that operating system of fear.
yeah,
Okay. I used
because
to have
you've
a,
got
I used
you
to,
got to like
go ahead.
you got to clear it out for yourself, right? So that either being timid or watching yourself when you're trying to control things. I mean, because we've all played various different parts throughout our life.
Oh yeah.
And so just being conscious of the fact that are you moving out of love or are you moving out of fear? Are you like what's your motive? Is it in your heart? Are you working from your head? Are you trying to control or manipulate things?
Or is
Uh,
it for the common? Is it for for the good of all of you, or the, and I an author. I used to read a whole bunch of her books back in the 90s, and she had a term called Jennifer Loudon, and she had this term called shadow comforts. And they're like, oh, but I'm doing this for self-care. I'm going to sit and watch Netflix 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because, I just need to relax. Well, that in small doses, maybe, or a glass of wine, but not, or, going off and doing drugs so that I can be in a different altered state. So I'm in a more loving space. You can't live like that. So it's like, how do we find that synergy of what feels good? Is it good for our body? Is it good for our soul? Is it good for our relationships? Is it good for our life? So I think of that as now, well, you and I have talked a lot about when you pick up something to eat or drink, is this good for me? Is this what I need now? So that's an a way to synergize is the word I made up some years ago. Yeah.
Well,
So,
and it's a state of trust. So that's where synergy really comes in. It's a state of trusting yourself and trusting others and trusting the divine. I think of it as trusting the divine because some things are happening in the unseen world that hasn't materialized yet and it hasn't come to fruition yet. So
yeah, he actually says in the book somewhere that we live in an uncomfortable transitionary era. And so as we're playing in that, this is where we're moving away from the traditional family model, the blood family model. Not that there's anything wrong to stay close, but if there's a fractal energy that feels like, oh, this is who I'm here to do my greatest work with. This is who nourishes and supports me and holds me so that I can be me or fully me. And it's kind of like I was describing to my daughters that I have these soul sisters, you being one, that I am where I feel like I can be my whole self. And as we go about living our lives and kind of putting these people into our circles and our fractal families, we're starting to notice that there's a coming together of that energy. So a communion is forming, which gives me just a tiny taste of what the acidic state is.
yes. But it's just when we think about synergy, excuse me, when we think about synergy, it comes through that state of trust.
Yeah.
And it's a leap of faith out of your fear-based thinking that you're a single person, and knowing that those people will show up in your
Oh,
life.
so in the in between, yeah, that's it's neat. It's easier when you're walking through life already in the little bubble of your fractal group. But when
Right.
you're like just going, okay, I'm going where I need to go today and doing my thing, and that's how all of a sudden there's more and more of us that gather together, hearing each
Uh,
other's voices.
and what I envision when I think of this key is a bird murmurization or murmur. Is that how you pronounce
Oh, when they do the swarming together. Yeah.
the flocking together? Um, it's like that family works in tandem and you can sense one another. And
Hmm.
so it's not even, I don't even know if it's with words. Like it's kind of like if you really trust your inner guidance and you feel into the field and you sense somebody and you're like, ooh, I need to reach out to them. And you do. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's
Yeah.
that to me feels very synergistic because you're using a higher knowledge rather than just knowing just than like somebody picking up the phone. Like you trust your body to tell you to like the signals.
Yeah. And that's where a group of us are trying to do leadership development now, is to get leaders to trust in that unified field, infinite intelligence, the dropping in and sensing into what does my organization need? What do I need? What's our next step?
Yeah.
And it is fascinating the companies who have adopted this form of visionary process with their leadership team, how they have managed to like skate through all the craziness in the environment, in the economic world, in the business world, because they trusted in something bigger. They didn't just look, and a lot of people, what they do is they look at the past. Let's look at last quarter's numbers. Let's look at, so I'm loving how if we could get this into more companies and organizations that drive a lot of the economic forces, what would a world be like where we trusted in something beyond us, into a collective
Right.
genius?
Well, and what's really cool is when you see companies working together
Yeah.
instead of competing.
Yeah. And
Uh,
more of that collectiveness is going on.
yeah.
Um,
And what's great about that is that it's just so much more efficient.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't have to be that competing thing, that dominance thing, like I've got more of the market share and I'm going to outdo you and blah, 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 which
We
just
we
creates,
all have we're all in sharing the wealth. Like it's just,
yeah.
yeah.
So, are you going to bring in one of the things I loved in the audio transmission that Richard did was around having more Sundays,
Oh,
having a
yeah.
Sunday. Isn't that amazing? So he uses the example of we have one day a week. Most religious cultures have one day a week of rest. And that on that day, it always feels like, oh, it's a Sunday. I can stay in my pajamas. I can sit and drink my coffee. I can go out to brunch. It's a slower day. It's a day of either communing and praying and gathering with friends and family or something, but it's not a work day. And then we even created the word holiday, like vacations and stuff, to be off of this one holy day. So he says, I'm up for having more holy holidays, more Sundays in our life. And what would we do? Who would we be as a species if we didn't work, if we didn't need to, be out there moving the I keep thinking of the big economic wheel and
Right.
um, so that was it played into my imagination, which is one of my gene keys I've been contemplating lately. And I'm just really loving what would that feel like?
Yeah. And it really stems from unconditional giving
Mm, and receiving,
and receiving. Yeah.
because this is where we are not so good at not taking is the word I don't like because it's got a different energy, but receiving
Yeah.
and being grateful for what we do receive. This is the clincher. I don't like that. I want more of this, please. Versus, can I be grateful for everything that as it is? So
As it's showing up. Yeah.
yeah. So this is the mudra I want to point out. So left hand underneath right hand, and it's like creating a little open. And so if you are part of any of the Christian traditions where you learn to go to communion and receive the oneness of the body of Christ, if we is what I was taught as a Catholic, but any of that where we're choosing to accept that bit of oneness so that we get to imbibe that and be part of that whole, we put our hand out to receive. So
It's
just
interesting
having,
that
yeah.
it's the left under the right. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
He didn't explain it, but I have thoughts around that because this is the mother energy. This is our right hand tends to be more symbolic of the doing energy. So we're teaching this doing part to slow down. And what if you didn't do? What if you received? So that's my interpretation. I'm not sure if that's Richard's. But I love it because it feels so, I can imagine. Just even as we receive a breath, it's simple, but it's so hard to be aware of it, to allow it.
Yeah. I mean, I love his discussion in the 64 ways of what, let's just imagine what life would be like if we had this type of synergy and communion,
Mm,
that we could then imagine a world without money,
yeah,
world without, I'm not saying money is, it's not good or bad. It's just all it is an form or exchange of energy.
right.
And so if energy was free and free,
Energy is free. If
energy
we
is
if
free.
we start realizing that energy is free,
Yes.
yeah.
If
And
it's free flowing, um, what what could we create from that?
yeah, what would life be like to sit in that, even for 10 minutes a day? I mean, I'm not saying I can even imagine what a whole life would, but I mean, if I sat in this space of imagining that, that whole time equals money or whatever thing goes away, or I won't have enough food if I don't have money. I mean, all of that, if that just all was quiet and I got to just sit with my hands in receptive mode, what could emerge, right? What kind of creative space could we be creating? There's still time to join us if you want to know that, by the way. We'll put the link below. Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think I want to end there. Till next time.
Till next time.